Alright, since they arrived in this country, even before they arrived in this country, this band was making waves everywhere. My claim is the Beatles are better than the Rolling Stones. Stated in a how to win a Beatles versus Rolling Stones argument, the Beatles started it all. There was no British invasion before the Beatles. As soon as the Beatles arrived, many other bands followed, including the Stones. So therefore, without the Beatles, there would be no Stones. The bands that followed were the Yardbirds, the Kinks, and the Who, including the Stones. The Beatles arrived in America, I believe, in '62, and or was it '63? They arrived, and their first single was "Love Me Do," and "Please Please Me" was on the backside of that. That single went to #1 for a couple weeks, as stated in Billboard's archives. The Beatles had more than the Beatles were together for only a 6-year span. From '64 to '70, they released 18 albums. Comparatively to Rolling Stones, they were together from '64 to '71. That's just, I'm giving the time frame to compare them. They only released 8 albums. The Beatles had 18 albums, and the Stones only had 8. And the Beatles' 18 albums, they released a compilation greatest hits album in 1972 and 1973 that was called the Red Album. 1962-66 hits that had 26 chart toppers, and the Blue Album, which was 67 to 70, which 28 chart-topping singles, which makes it 54 singles that were at the top of the charts for that 6-year span. Whereas the Stones released their first compilation hits album in '72, which is comparable to the Beatles, with only 21 hits. The Beatles also went through many transitions in their career. They changed their style of music from '64 to '70. Each year they had something different. The Stones generally stayed the same and have played the same music for the last 40 to 50 years. The Beatles also released a #1 album 40 years after the fact of them forming the band, 30 years after the band breaking up, called The Beatles #1, which has sold over 11 million albums and has gone 10 times platinum, which means it is diamond. It is also known that McCartney and Lennon have been considered to be the best writing duo ever, comparatively to Bernie Taupin, Elton John, and Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. And then also I read up on Billboard archives, along with not only being one of the greatest bands with the most singles hits, and comparatively to other bands, Yesterday is the song that's been most played on the radio, and it continues to be played today. Even after the fact of them breaking up in the '70s, this is 39 years later, their songs are played multiple times during the day, and not only is it just their single hits, but it's also their B-sides are known as singles. They also have many cover bands called Purple Rain, it's Purple Rain, the Fab Four, and the Magical Mystery Tour, which all tour over America, playing their hits continuously. The Stones have been together for 50 years now. It's going to be next year, and they still, I think they don't even compare to the Beatles' #1 hits yet. Still, they've released a total of, I want to say, 25 albums from what I counted, and the Beatles released 18. In conclusion, the Beatles defeat the Stones. They even helped write for the Stones as they first came on the scene. They even wrote a few of their #1 hits off a few of their albums. And the Beatles still live on today, even though their band has been broken up for the last 39 years. Not only that, there's a Beatles rock band, not a Rolling Stones rock band. Thank you.